Hello guys, so hope you're all doing good. Today in this video we are going to learn about Angular HTTP API consumption. So API integration is a main concept and the backbone behind development for every technology stack. Assume that we are developing a web or mobile application using Angular or React, Vue.js or any tech stack. So API integrations come across in every technology stack. So for today in this video, we are going to learn about the API integration in Angular. So let's talk about it. So this is the documentation for Angular HTTP consumption over angular.io. So you can take a look on it. In this documentation, they have guided step by step for the things we are going to do. So before going into the coding practices and coding implementation, I will I will let you know, guys, what are the certain steps, what are the main steps for consuming the API calls. So if we can go on angular.io/guide/http, so there is a view for communicating with backend services using HTTP. So if you can take a look on it, so Angular provides a service class inside the Angular common HTTP, and there is a HTTP client class through which we can consume the APIs. There are 4 verbs in term of Angular HTTP. So get, put, post, and page. So there are certain other as well. There's a delete as well. So all of the methods are available in this Angular HTTP client service class. So but before using this HTTP client, so if you can see here, Angular is guiding for prerequisites. So Angular HTTP client module is required to consume that Angular HTTP client service. So but inside the Angular HTTP client, we are writing to consume the API calls, but consuming that one will not work if you didn't imported your HTTP client module in app.module. So for the step for setup for server communication is the first step is to go inside your app.module, and inside that app.module you have to import that HTTP client module, right? So HTTP client module is imported from Angular common HTTP. So after importing that importing this module, you have to add an entry for that module inside your imports array under app.module.ts file. So this is a very first step you have to do. This will what this step means and why we are doing this importing of app.module. The main reason behind is we have to then allow, like, this module, once we import this HTTP client module, this will allow users or allow developers to consume this HTTP client class inside your service, right? So the first step is to import the module inside your app.module, and the second step is to create a service. Like, assume that I am working on a users component. So inside that users component, I have to create an service. I have to create a service with, like, it will say users.service.ts. So inside that service, I have to import this HTTP client service, right? We can also, the second step is to import the HTTP client class from HTTP client service class from Angular common HTTP, same location from we have imported HTTP client module, right? So once we will be creating this, the third step is to make a constructor, to make an entry for a constructor with a private keyword inside your constructor method, right? So this is the third step we are going to do. And the fourth step is we are now going to consume the HTTP call. So if you are like looking into this, so there is kind of a live example, download example, and kind of other things and other detailed view provided by Angular. So you can take a look on it. But let me go through directly what we are going to do. So the fourth step is to consume the API, right? So after making an instance inside your constructor for that HTTP client class, you have to do this kind of thing. You have to create a method, like assume that I'm getting a list of users from my API call. So what I will be going to do, I will be creating a get users method, which will be readable in terms of reading, right? Then inside that, I will be using this .http.get. So this HTTP is the instance which I created inside the constructor by using HTTP client service class. So inside that, Angular provided HTTP verbs like get, post, put, patch, and delete kind of things. So inside this, what I will be doing, I'm consuming the API directly by passing the URL. So these are the certain steps to consume the API call. So let's take a look on, let's take an example of, let's take a look on the live coding experience. So I will show you guys how to consume the API call. So before moving into that, so this is my dummy application. As you guys can see, I have created a module with users. So I have created a module with users path. So I will go through all of these things to there. The second thing we are going to use this sample API, which is regress.in. So in this, this sample API is provided with like get method, get endpoints, post endpoint, page endpoint, and a delete endpoint. So line by line, one by one, we are going to take a look on it. Okay, so let's start with this. So let me move this window to other one, right? Okay, so now here, if you guys can see my if you guys can see here my VS Code window. So let me zoom in a little so that you guys can, it can be readable. So here, if you can see, there is a there is my Angular application. So inside that Angular application, under src directory, source directory, I have an app folder, which is a default behavior for Angular application architecture. So inside that, I have component and I have users. So I have created this users one, right? So, but before moving into that, I have to open this HTTP module. So there are certain entries here, so you can neglect these things. So, but what we are going to do is, you have to do an import for HTTP client module. Okay, so what we are going to do is, you have to make an HTTP client module. So we are importing this from what? We are importing this from Angular common inside this HTTP, right? So after creating this one, what I have to do, I have to use the HTTP client module inside my imports area, right? So this is a thing we have to do. And the same thing, because I have implemented a lazy loading inside my users. So user is not a component. So inside that module, I have also used these. I have also implement this thing. So the main focus is like whatever your higher order module is. So inside that module, you have to import your HTTP client module, so that inside that module you can use HTTP client service class, right? So this is the first thing we have to do. And second thing is, this is my users component. So inside that users component, what I will be doing, I will be opening this into my integrated terminal, and I'm writing this ng generate service users, right? So this will create a service inside my inside my component. So this is a service. So now inside that service, I have to use that HTTP client. Here you can see, right? Okay, yeah. So this is the HTTP client, which I have imported it from Angular HTTP common. So here is my constructor. I will be creating an instance inside the constructor method. So here I'm saying HTTP and this one, right? So with this, I have an access to that HTTP client service class. Now I can easily consume the method. So here, if I'm writing get users, right? Get users type is okay. So here's get users. So what I will be doing here is I will be calling this HTTP instance which I have created. So I'm accessing that this.http dot. So these are a bunch of methods which Angular provides. So from here I'm basically consuming the get API call. Firstly, to get the users listing from my API, right? So if you can open that method, so it will guide you. It will, if you can see, there is a little there is a pop-up or a tooltip, a main tooltip came over. So it's guiding you for the parameters it requires inside that get method for a service for a HTTP client service class, right? So inside this get, the first thing you have to pass about is URL. So URL is actually your API endpoint. So from where you are getting the list of users or list of products or whatever it should have to be. And the second parameter is passing your options. What are the options? Options are like if you are sending your API a token inside the headers or kind of thing. So for those contexts, for those perspectives, you have to pass the options. So at this moment, because we are not looking that API integration in detail. So but there is a principle I will give you a walkthrough in the end. So what are the options and what are the headers? So I will get you through to it. So don't worry about it. So the first thing, so the main thing which is required inside the get method is your endpoint. So what was the endpoint? As I already told you, we are going to use that sample API. So this is the let me let's create the endpoint here. So I am saying like, okay, endpoint, and the type is string, and here I'm using this one, right? So this is our endpoint. So we can say this is our endpoint. So now our endpoint is if I can show you, this is our endpoint. So inside that endpoint, this is a server URL, right, on which our backend is deployed. So for this is our base URL. So but the API is what? API is located under another form of things, like you can say API/users, right? So this is the whole this is a complete URL for the users API. So what I will be doing is I'm passing this endpoint. I'm passing this endpoint here, right? And the main thing about here, I'm creating let options equal to, because at this moment we don't have any headers, we don't have any other things. So we are going to pass options as it is here. So we are not passing any tokens inside our header or kind of stuff. So for now we are passing a dummy options object here. So otherwise, if you are not passing, so it will also work, but to give you a better understanding, so we are consuming this one, right? So now with this, we have been successfully implemented the get API call here. So now let's consume that API call inside our users component, right? So, but before consuming this, let me create a listing component inside my users. So ng generate component users listing, I'm saying. So this is a component for a users listing, right? So if you can see, here is a users listing component came over. So what we are doing is now, so here is user listing component, right? So inside my users routing, so here user module said, inside user module there's a listing component came. So to implement that to implement that one, what I have to do, I have to import that component which is listed here in the module, the new component of listing. So I have copied the whole import statement here. Now what I'm doing, this is a child component of users component. So inside this children, what I'm doing is I'm creating an object for path. So path is default, so whatever should have to be, it should have to be load the component of users listing. So with this we are enabling the routing here, right? We are enabling the routing here. So now we are closing this one, the path, the users listing routing module. So now inside this, because we inside the users component we are calling other methods here, so we have to do the router outlet so that it will have to show the outlets. So now let's take a look on the browser. So yeah, if you can see now here, if I'm going on the users, users route, so users listing is come across. So why it's coming over? So this is kind of a routing strategy, but let me go through here. That's kind of a basic thing you should have to learn, because inside my users module I have a users routing module. So inside that users routing, what I am saying, like this was the parent component, this was a root component for users component. So I'm saying whenever it should be loaded on users component, so if the path is not defined ahead, you have to load users listing component. So that's why it's been loading on /users. So but let's learn about the API call. Right, so sorry guys. Okay, so now is user service. So user listing is come across. So after creating this user service for HTTP call, now we are going into that component inside. We are consuming that service. So let's the first thing for consuming that service is to import your service. So it's user service, right? So I have imported this on line number 2. Now inside my constructor, I am making an instance for, I'm saying users. So inside that users, I'm making an instance inside that listing component. I'm making an instance for user service. So with this, now I can get the methods. So here, if I am I'm saying get users listing. So get users listing here. So inside which I am saying, like, from my service is what? This is my service, inside which I have written my API call for getting the list of users. So now I'm consuming that service inside my component where I want to render the data for that users. So I'm saying this dot users dot, so get users was the method which I have been created, right? So here, right? So here, because this is the return type for that method is observable. So because if you can see here, this .http, so this .http, which was the Angular HTTP client service class. So it's returning the observables. So what are the observables? Observables are the broadcasters. So you can take a look on that by Google or their documentation for JavaScript observables. So you can have a great picture for that. So we can subscribe because those are observable. So we are going to subscribe that. So inside that subscribe, we have to initiate a callback, right? So inside that callback, now we are going to take a look on it, like what's my API is returning here. So if I'm saving this, right? So I have saved this. So the main concept was, the first thing is you have to import the HTTP client module, which is on line number 7. After importing that module, you have to add an entry inside your imports array. If you can see on line number 15, so I have made an entry for that. And inside on line number 18, this is a client module which I have been entered in the imports array. This was the first thing. The second thing is to inside every component or module, if you want to consume the API or integrate the API, so you have to create a service. That's actually a good practice for consuming your API calls. So making that user service, what you have to do, you have to create a service inside that component. So here I created that. So users.service.ts. So inside that, the second step is to import your HTTP client service class, which will only work once you have imported this HTTP client module. Once you have imported HTTP client module and inside your service or component you are consuming HTTP client service class, so it will going to work, right? So after this, we have created an endpoint. So this is an endpoint for the users API, because I want to integrate the API for users. So I've created an endpoint. So then after, we have created a method inside our user service. So which will going to use this HTTP service class method for get. So for getting the list of users from our backend API. So this is how we have finalized this service. So the third step is to now consume this user service on your component where you want to retrieve the list of users. So inside that list, inside that user listing component, you are going to import your service which you have written the API, inside which you have written the API. So you have imported that user service, and you have also created an instance inside your constructor for user service, right? So for user service, now inside that component, you are going to create a method for getting the users listing. Now you are consuming the method from your service, which is integrated, inside which you have integrated your API call, right? So I'm using this get users here. This .users.get users. After that, I'm subscribing to it for like looking over by using their syntax for TypeScript and Angular. So I'm using this subscribe. So inside that subscribe, I have a callback. So I have named that with response short form, RES. So now once it will be success, once this API call will be going to success, so I will be able to look the response for that API, right? So this was the perspective from coding thing. So let's take a look on the browser how it will work. So okay. So if you can go here, and inside this network call, if I'm going to refresh this users, so nothing will going to happen. Why? So let's take an example. Let's take a look on this component again. This is get users listing method, which I didn't called anywhere. So once this component of users will be going to load, so this user listing component route will be fired, and the users listing is working fine. So but once this component will be hooked up and rendered and attached to the DOM, so constructor will going to run first. Then after ng on init, like initialize will have to going on the second thing, on the second level. So this is a life cycle for Angular, life cycle methods of Angular. So once on the first level, constructor will going to run. On the second level, initialize ng on it will going to run. So whatever the method I have been written to consume my service, and inside my service I have an API integrated, so I have to call that method which I have created. So this is a get users listing. So I'm calling that method on the ng on init because I want to load the list of users once the component is loaded and attached to the DOM, right? So let's save it and take a look on the browser now. So if you can see, if I'm reloading that route, so if you can see, there is a users API. If you guys can see, or let me zoom a little here. Okay. Okay, so here this is okay, so if you can see, this is the this is a list, this is an API for users on the second level. So if I'm reloading this one, so the users API is here, right? So this is a users API which is fired, and the users API, if you can see, here is a request URL. So this is, and the status code is 200, so that means the API ran successfully. So if you can see response tab, so inside that there is a response coming, right? There is a response coming for the API. If you want to see the beautify thing, so beautify thing, you can go into the preview tab inside your network. So inside that preview, you can see there is a list of users coming inside your data array, inside your data object. So, and there are certain other things like total and total pages and per page. So this is a pagination concept. I will be going to make another video for this thing to consume the pagination API calls with virtual scrolling or kind of stuff. So I will be going to release a video on that. But before, the API integration is working fine. So you are getting the list of users inside your .data. So now if you can go in your console tab rather than network tab, so you can see from users listing.component.ts line number 21, you are actually looking this data, right? So now let's render the list of those users, first name, last name, and their image with their email. So let's make a listing from here to visualize those things. So, but remember that from your response, data is another array of objects inside which you are getting you are getting your list of users, right? Okay. So now as we are getting the response, so we are going to make a variable here. We are saying like, okay, data, and the type is array type here. We are saying, so inside whatever the data, whatever the response coming from API, we are going to store that response here inside our data, inside our data variable, right, which is created above here. Right? So this is .data, and we are also consoling, we are also using this one to see everything is fine working in console. So you can see the thing are working fine as we already saw. So this was the basic and main step for consuming your APIs. So now let's go into the some markup thing, and let's render the list of those users. So as we are using Bootstrap, so we should have to use that table, but as we are having with avatar as well, so we are going to consume the card one. So inside the card, you can see this is a basic card. So we are going to copy this code from clipboard, and inside your users listing component, you are going to make a div.container, right? Inside that container, you are going to create a row, and inside that row, you are going to I want to show 4 users in a row. So 4 threes are 12, as 12 is the maximum part of your grid. So I'm saying like call 4. No, call 3. So 3 should have to load the 4 cards, right? So inside this I'm using here. Inside this I'm using the card, and for this perspective, the REM. Okay, let's look at it at the end. So but before that, let's see if this card is loading on the browser or not. So this is loading, right? Which is loading fine. So as we can see here in the container, we are using margin top 5 for the space from the top, right? Okay. So now as we are getting our list of users inside this data, so we are going to repeat that column instance. So I'm using this for loop thing. So here I'm using data, right? So data is what? Data is an array of object inside which I am getting an other data key, inside which I am getting the list of users, right? So I'm saying data is my variable which I've created inside this TypeScript file. So but inside that, or I can say listing, okay, not data, but we are saying it listing, because data is another key inside your response, which is coming from API. So data, it's not looking good. So we make a variable for listing here. So now what we are going to do is, here rather than data, we are going to say listing dot data, right? Remember I told you like the data which is coming here. So inside that response there is a key of data in which you have a list of users. So this is the main reason, because I'm using listing dot data here. So now this is a loop. This will be a loop which is running over your list of objects for those users, right? So like these users, this is a loop. So we are going to run a looping over these lists, right? So now as we had taken a look, so what's actually the keys in which we are going avatar. So there is a spelling. Let's avatar here, right? So AVATAR. So we are going to say inside this src, so we are getting, I can say, item dot avatar, right? So if I am using this, so item dot, okay, I'm making a mistake here. So in terms of this one, now I will be going to retrieve the avatar for users. So you can see now the list of avatars. You can see the picture of users are coming, right? But there is no any space between the cards. So what you have to do is, rather than using empty4 here, so you are going to use a class here. So this will be going to be a spacing, generalized spacing for your card spacing. If you can see, so from top you have a same space, on the cards you have same space, right? So let's show the first name, last name. Okay, this is the first name, last name, and email, right? So let's do with it. So let's remove this anchor tag button because we don't need it at the moment. So but here we have to do, inside that item we are getting first name and last name. So whatever your full name, whatever user's full name is, user's full name should be conducted from item dot first underscore name. So we have to concatenate both of the things. So this thing which I'm doing is, it's a property binding. So property is what? property binding is like this is a concept for binding strategy. So we are using this binding strategy. These are the variables, and we are making use of those variables, and we are we are consuming those properties inside our markup file, right? So this is kind of first name, last name, and here we are going to render the email. We have also rendered the images part as well. So if you can go here, open the browser. So here you can see there is a list of users which is coming on to your browsers, right? On your browser. So you are saying like these data is coming from API. So you can validate that data. There are 6 records, right? There are 6 records. So 4, 5, and 6, right? So there are 6 records. So the first was George, and the second was Janet, the third was Emma, fourth was Eve, Charles, and Tracy, right? So this is the data which is coming properly fine in your browser. So this is how we have consumed the GET API call, right? So this is how we have integrated that data. So there are certain other methods. We are going to take a look on it as well. So let's take a look on it. So there was a component for users listing. So whatever we are going to do is we have created that list of users listing. So there are certain methods as well. So the certain methods are like you can say create user. Create user will be going to be another method for creating the new user, right? So creating new user, let's take an example. So as we are having with users listing component, we are going to create another component. We can say add edit user, right? So this will be going to another component, add edit user here. So inside that add edit user, we are going to create a form, and inside that form we are going to consume the API for posting a new user, right? So but before that, before consuming that, we first have to go inside that add edit user. But before that, we are going to create a entry for that inside your users module. So as you can see, add edit user component is listed here. So you have to copy that from your users module, and you have to go inside your users routing module and place an entry for place that statement. And what you have to do is, because this is also the children for users root component, so you are going to recognize here add edit user type path here, and you are going to add this one, right? So from as you have passed that route on the root, so you have to create that with the listing part as well. Assume that user have moved over add edit user. Now user want to go on the listing page, so they can go with the routing as well. But if the routing is not defined, they can also go with that as well. So this is a good part for routing. You have taken a look. So I've created the entry for add edit user here. So let's validate like if everything is working fine on the browser. So here you can see users, and if I'm saying users listing, so you are looking into users listing. So but I want to open that form. So here from which I have the form for add edit user, which is working fine, right? So let's close that one, right? So now we have a service, user service, and inside that service, before going into that, let's close this users listing HTML file and open that users, which one, the user edited user, right? So this is the edited user. Let's close this one as well, users listing. So now we are going to make a form using Bootstrap. So with that Bootstrap, we are having with forms. So if you can go into the forms, where they are, form control. Right, so here are the forms from the Bootstrap, so we can consume those forms and we can make use of those. So here we can take a look on it, like how we are going to make those forms. So there are a bunch of things, so we can consume those forms, we can make those. We are also having with floating labels as well, if you can see. So we are going to use that part inside our forms. So if I'm copying this one and I'm going inside my code here, and I'm saying div dot container, right? Inside that div dot row, I want to create a form in a center way. So I'm using div dot call 6 or call 4, whatever it should have to be. So right, so I have to pass that utility class here, justify content center, which will be going to make my column centralized in the row, right? So here I am going to create a form. So I'm going to remove that action from here, and inside that form I am creating this one. I'm removing this ID, but okay, we are not removing this. We can say here first name. So here and here we are going to use this key as a first name, right? So placeholder will be you can say Alex, right? So type is text because this is a string. So if you can save, and you can see, so this is coming. So as there's a bunch of thing with your spacing, so we can say margin y-axis 5. So it will be going to add a vertical spacing from above and bottom of your page. So if you can inspect this one, so this is your container. So if you can see the orange part, so they have added the margin on the y-axis, right? So if you can close this one, so you can see, you can reflecting the axis here. So yeah, okay. So the first name came across, and now we are going to, because this is a call for, and inside that form we are making that. So with that we are going to format selection here, and we are making this for last name, we are making this for email, and for image we are not making any instance right now. So we will going to take a look on it. We will be pass the image in terms of URL. Okay, so the first we can say here we can say image part, right? So this should also accept the text. So we are going to change the ID from here. You can say https sample.com/user.png kind of thing, so that user can understand you have to pass the URL for your image. So the first name, and we are going to replace this with last name, Alex John, we can say. So the first should have to be changed with the last here as well, because this will be going to make your floating label. So we have to make separately first name, last name. Here we are going to change it for email, right? And email should be alex @email.com. here we can say. So here the label should have to be email. Okay, so now there's a button which is remaining here. So we are going to create an anchor tag here. So anchor tag should say save user, but we are going to assign a class here. So class should have to be button primary. These are the classes for Bootstrap, and we have also added the margin top 4. So if you can see on the browser now, so this is a form. We are getting the form for our for making the entry for our new user. So this is coming on edit user as well, right? So now we have to add reactive forms in this form to beautify this form and making this consistent for consuming, saving, and storing the data inside your API call. So let's take a look on that. So there are a couple of certain strategies for making your reactive forms. So we can see reactive forms. Let me open VS Code here. So let's open edit user component. So inside that reactive form, let me open that one. So for those reactive forms, we also have to import the reactive form module form module inside your users module, so that it will be going to work as we already did for HTTP client module. So the same way we are going to use it for for routing reactive forms. So here you can see the reactive forms module. So it's coming here. So let me make it to the top here, reactive forms module. So I'm going to import that inside the import array. So now I can use the reactive forms inside my component. So this is the main thing we have to do for doing reactive forms, right? Okay. So now another thing is, like as I did that one, so inside your users component you have to import the form control and also form group as well. So I can give you a better understanding for that. Form group. So what is form group? Form group is an instance. A form group is identity for creating a form, and inside that form group we are having with a bunch of form controls. Like in our case, the whole form, which was the user's form, which contains first name, last name, and image. So this whole is a form group. So inside this element, which is a form input element, so these are what? These are the form controls. So a bunch of form controls can make form group, right? So this is a concept behind form group and form control. So now what we are going to do is, inside this I'm creating, like we can say, user form. The type should have to be a form group. So it is saying, so we are going to use undefined property, or we are going to create a ternary key. Let me go through to it. I'm assigning the type here, so it will be going to work. Okay, right? So this is a user form. We have created this, and inside that user form, now I have to initialize a form. So what I'm be doing, I will be creating a method which will say form init. So form init is the main place where we are going to initialize a form, right? So how we can initialize a form? Whatever the variable we have created here, so we should have to access that user form, and we are creating an instance for form group, which we have imported above. The form group. Right? So this is how we are creating our new forms. So whatever my now assume that image is my form control, so I'm creating another instance for form control, and I'm accessing the default value is empty, right? So comma, and this is the way for first name, last name, and email. So I can say first underscore name, last underscore name, and email. Right, so this is how we have initialized the form. So making it work, what we are going to do, we have to call that method inside our ng onInit method. As I already told you, this is the lifecycle method which will be going to run on the second level after constructor. So we are going to do that. Right, so this is how we have created our reactive form. So let's make a method on save method, which will be going to trigger after user click on save button. So let's see what will be coming inside your form. So accessing your form is this dot user form dot value. So on that, whatever user fills up the form at the instance when user clicked on save button, so you will be going to taking a look on what is inside the form on that level. So I will have to trigger that method on click event for that save button. So I am making an event for calling that on save method on click event, right? So let's take a look on browser now. Okay, yep. So here is our console. So let's assume that the image is sample image, and the first name is Alex, second name is John, and I can say alex.email.com, right? So if I'm clicking on save user, so it will be what it will be showing. It will be showing the empty form here object. Why? The main reason is we have created the form controls, but we didn't assign our form controls here. So it's not recognizing the form. It's not recognizing the forms, right? So how it will be going to recognize the forms? Because inside our HTML, whatever we have created in terms of form group, so we didn't make the changes inside our HTML file. So inside my HTML file, I will be going to assign the form group here, form group, right? So what is the form group for me? My form group is this one, user form. I'm going to assign that here, user form, right? And these I have to make a form control name. Let me show you what are those. So form control is as I'm talking about image. So with this image, form control is what? This is the image, and these are the keys for form controls. So I have to use that for image, right? And form control for let me copy for every input element. Okay, so for first name, this is my key as well from my reactive forms. If you can see, this is first name, so I have to do this for first name, and for last name and for email, right? So now let's take a look on it in the browser. So yeah, okay, now if I'm saying sample image Muhammad and this email, so if I'm saving the user, you can see form is validated. Now the reactive form is implemented successfully. Now we have to consume the we have to consume the API call. So for that API call, the same as we did inside the users listing. So we are going to copy something from there, as we have created this user service. So we have to make that user service call here, and we have to make that instance inside the user service. So these are the works we have did. So inside that constructor we are going to do this one right? So but inside, before doing this, we have to make a create user method as well. So what we are going to do is, here is a create user which we have created for making the API call. So let's write, so this dot http dot post. Post is the method provided by Angular HTTP client service class. So inside this we have to pass the URL, which is this dot endpoint, as we already passed above. So the second parameter is here for the data. So data is what? Data will be coming from the component where we are calling this method. So assume that as you already saw, we have a form, edit user form. So whatever users fills up in the form, so they have to pass the object which we saw in console.log. User have to pass that object here in terms of data. So that data will be going to backend API call. So as we don't have options here for now, so same as in the GET request we have did, so we are going to using that options method here, right? So this is how with this we have created the post request for creating a new user. So as we go inside here, so in this component, so on save, what we are going to do, we are going to consume that this dot users dot which method we have created? We have created create user. So inside that create user we have to pass the data. So data is what? Data is the form inside which user have filled up the form. So with this we are going to see like what's the response after the post request. So here we have created this post API call, post API integration. Here we have passed we have used dot post, so it will be going to create a new user inside the database, and this is the endpoint you have to pass, and this is the data. Data is what? Data is we are passing, so create user, we are using here create user, and we are passing the data here, right? So this is the data we are passing. So data is coming here, so data is passed to this API, right? So as we pass this data here, and we are going to look on the response after this API. This API will be going to hit once user will be click on save button, because on save button we have integrated this on save method. So if you can see, this is the on save method, right? So let's take a look on it. Okay, so this is a form. So I have cleared out this network tab as well so that you can see, and I'm saying okay, so with the image let's take a look on from my portfolio. So this is my image, so let's see it will load or not. Okay, so this is the image URL. So I'm passing that image URL here, and I'm saying my first name, my last name, and email. So if I'm clicking on save user, so you can see there is a users API which come across, and which filled up successfully, and it says 201. Status 201 means created successfully. So this is what the meaning of this status code. So if you can see into the detail of that, so users, so the headers is what? This is the API request users, and the payload was what? This is the request payload. Request payload means whatever the data we have sent from user interface to the backend API call. So this is the payload, first name, email, last name, and image. So preview and response is what? This is the response which is coming from database, which is coming from API. Like, okay, this you have sent this payload, and that is stored in a database successfully, and this is the snapshot for successful entry which is created, which is what? 374. If you can see ID 374. So and created it. So these are the two things which is coming from database in terms of snapshot. So this user is created on this ID, right? And this is the time and date, timestamp. So this is how we have successfully saw the we have successfully saw we have successfully saw the creation of user with the post API, right? So if you can see, if we can go on users listing again, so but I don't think so user will come across because we are only getting six records from page number 2, if you can see. So we will be going to see the separate user in terms of ID. So let's integrate the single user API to make your view pages, right? So this is the edit user page you saw here, right? So let's make a user detail page, right? So how we are going to make a user detail page? So in terms of okay, so we are going to look that one on we are going to look that one on opening of your user form, we can say, or we can open the modal, we can open a pop-up from the users listing page to see the detail page as well. So let's close this all of the files, and inside this user service we are going to create the get API call, right? So with that API call, we have to take a look on the documentation for API. So single user, you can see. So if I'm clicking on list of users, so we have to pass /users. So for single user, you have to pass your ID of user, like we can say API/user/2. So 2 is what? 2 is the ID, and our data is being added with 374 ID, I remember. So we have to pass API/user/374 to load that data, right? So what we are going to do is now we are going to make a get API call again by copying this one. Okay, so we are creating this here. So we can say get user, not get users, but get user, a single user. So here as I have to pass that ID, so we are going to integrate a backtick thing. So a backtick thing is what? Okay, this one. So we are doing a string interpolation here. So this one endpoint is a variable, and we have to pass the ID, right? So for that we also again use a string interpolation, and we are going to pass ID. So ID is what? ID is coming from a component. ID will be going to coming from a component. We are going to call this method get user. So assume that there is a view page separately, and we are consuming this. So we have to pass an ID, like we have to pass that ID for a specific user, so that API can return the data for that user only, right? So in our case, if we are going into the users listing page, so there is a listing. So with that listing, we are going to add a pop-up from Bootstrap. So let me see. Okay, so here is a modal. So for testing that modal, so let's integrate that one. Okay, so give me a second, guys. So that modal, for now we are integrating it here, but this is not recommended to do directly here. So but we have to do that, so we are doing this one. So here we are going to create a button for opening that modal, right? So with that, inside this one we are going to consume that button, and we said see details, right? So let's see on the browser how it's been working. Okay, so we are not using this one. So for now Let's create another row. Inside that row we are going to create another row, so which we are going to see the div dot call 12. Okay, so call 2. So give me a second. I can see if we can have a good card inside the bootstrap documentation so that we can consume that one to see this one look beautiful. So here we are going with cards. So inside that card, if we can, I actually want to see if we have a horizontal card. For that it will be going to look beautiful. Yeah, this one. I'm looking for this one. Thank you. Right, so here with that we are going to consume this one in terms of call 6. Right, so as I already told, for justify content center, this will be going to make this centralized. This is a utility class, justify content center, to make your cards on the center. So if you can see here, we have a card which is being centered, showing in terms of centered, right? So with this row we are going to use here MT5. Right, so this is a detailed view. This is a detailed view for that card. So as we have to do here, we are making the HR for creating the lines. MY5 should be perfect for making the spacing from above and bottoms. So right, this is a detailed view. This is a detailed view of user, what we will be going to click from above card. So the detailed view and the detailed API call will be going to come here. So it will be good, I think, if we can place this one above the user's listing. So, but we can go with it for now, right? So the main purpose is actually to get the detail for that user, to see the API call for a single user get, right? So inside that component, what I will be going to do, I will be going to create a separate method. I am copying this method because I have to reuse that. So I'm going to say get single user, right? And get single user will going to have an ID, and the method for a single user is what? Get user from a service. So this dot user is dot get user, and this is showing error because this is a parameterized method. So we have to pass that parameter here. So we are passing an ID here, and that user will be coming across. So this is a listing, and this is we can say a single user. So a single user will be going to come here, right? So a single, so whatever the response should be, so the response will be going to inside your user one, and we will be going to look on this in the console. So now how we can retrieve that one? So we should have to make an anchor tag here. And inside that anchor tag, we are going to see the details. So we can say see details, right? And with that see detail, we are going to consume a trigger click event, inside which we are going to call that one, and we are going to pass the ID here, item.id. Right, so now after I click, now let's see in the browser what are the things coming in our console or network. I'm emptying the console and network. So now if I'm why this button is not coming? Okay, let me, okay, so the c detail is coming, but the class is not assigned, so we have to pass that class. So I have to make that class btn and btn success. So now if we can see in the browser, so these are the c details. Now the button is coming. So if you can click on any of those, so if you can see one ID is passed and the data is coming for a specific user, right? You can see. Now if I'm clicking on the second user, so ID2 is passed to API users 2 and the data is coming. If I'm clicking on 3, 4, 5, so these are what? These are the API calls consumed, right? So we are getting the data here, dot data. So if you can go now and we have that data in user object. So if you can see, and we have to make that condition for if condition here. So if user.id, right? So if we have that user, then only that detailed div will be going to show. So if you can see now the detail card is not available. If you can see, yeah, it's been hidden. So once we will be clicking on that, one, so then after the that section will be going to show. So user.id. So if you can see now user, so response is coming user.data.id. Sorry, user.data.id. So by default it's not here. So once I've clicked on see details, so details come from API and the card is being here. So let's render the data which is coming from API. So we can say user.data.what image, right? And same as it is for the first name and last name. So this one is we did for first name here and for last name here. And for the email, so we have to remove all this description text and we have to write this key for email, right? So let's take a look on the detail view for that. So now if you can see in the browser, so for now no details are coming, right? So if we click on see details and if we can go down, so if you can see George Bluth is being done. If I'm clicking on Janet, so Janet is being rendered. If I'm clicking on Tracy, so Tracy is being rendered. So I don't think so why image is not coming. So let's take a look on it. What's the object key? So inside that data image, okay, image is with avatar. I have used the wrong ID, wrong key. So that's what it's not been rendered. So here if we can replace it with avatar, so now it will be going to render the perfect picture as well. So if I'm clicking on Emma Wang, so you can see the perfect card is being loaded. If I'm using Tracy, Charles, Eve Holt, Emma, Janet, George. So this is how this detail views come across. So with this detail view, so I have created this a sample dummy for showing you how to consume the single user API call. But there are other perspective. We can make a separate component for detailed view as well. So, and with the passing of that, we have to pass the ID from here to that detailed view and to consume that API separately. But that's another case. But now I was curious to show you how we are going to consume that. So the main thing is now we can replace that with the inside the row. Inside the row I have call 3, so we can play around with some of the detail view and what. So inside that row, if I'm creating div dot call 12, so inside that if I'm creating a row again, right, and inside that row I have to make div dot call 6 twice. So inside one, inside this row I have created a call 6, and inside that call 6, actually inside that row I have created two call 6 separate instances. Let me show you guys what I want to work on it. So these two column 6s, so if I'm deleting that call 12, so yeah, so here there are two call 6s, and with that call 6, the first call 6, with here I am creating another row inside which I'm going to use that listing part, right? And with the second one we are going to use that detailed part, right? So here in the first one we are going to load the listing one, and for the second we are going to load the detailed view. So this is what I want to do, but let's change this one. So with this the width should have to be moved from here, so width should be dynamically being changed. So let me open that. So now if you can see, these are the cards, so we can use that with not with call 4, but we can use with that call 9 and call 3, so that will also going to work, right? So let's see in the browser. So yeah, now if you can see, this is a list, and that's actually a detailed view, right? So this is what I want to come across, and I want to show you guys. So let's do with container flit some kind of to looking good. So now maybe it will look good. No, so no. Right, so this is what we have did for this one, and with this 9, so we can go with 8 and 4. So make that good. Maybe something breaking up. So but no. Okay, now it will looks fine, but it will not so fine, but it's good. 7 5. So this is actually a grid strategy. Column 7 is what's like column 7 is like this section for listing, and column 5 is for that detailed view. So these are the sections, right? So here if you can see, we are looking into the details, and this is the listing. So listing, what we have did is we have taken a look on that listing API call, get single user, and post API call. So the update API call is same as it is, and with the detailed whatever we have created. So let's consume that detail and update API call as well. So if you can see inside the service, so let's say update user. So update user is same as it is this simple get user. So I'm going to do that. Get user is not update user. So whatever the update should be, I have to pass the ID and data. ID for that data, and specifically the data for that user, which I am updating inside the database, right? So these are the things we have to pass. We have to pass for the update API, and the update method is with put, right? So this is the update API call. So update API call should be running from the form again. So but before that we have to load the data inside our form. So but with that we didn't consume that one, but this is how we will be going to make a service, and we have to consume that service by passing two methods as we did in here, get single user. So for update we have to pass another parameter for data as well. So right, and for delete, for the delete, same as it is the get user one. Again, we only have to pass ID for deleting a user. I am saying here as delete user. So I have to pass the ID for that user, right? So with that delete, we will be going to look here. So we are consuming that delete user here, right? So deleting the user is what get, or we can say delete user, right? So with that delete user, we have a method inside service with delete user. So we are calling that delete user method and we are passing the ID, right? So but from the HTML part, so inside as we have created a button, so we will be going to create another button for deleting the user. So as we have a method for delete user, we have created inside our component that has been calling delete user method from a service, our service for deleting this. So there's a keyword for delete is http.delete, right? So we are calling this delete user method from our component ts file to the HTML file, and we are passing the ID here. So you can say here delete, right? So if you can see, if you can save this work and see in the browser, so we have to add an space. So we can say margin start 2. So margin from start 2 is being entered. So if you can go inside the inspect element and open the network tab, and if I want to delete this user, so 204 status, if you can open this one, so this is a delete request which is being successfully served. So if you can now refresh this page, right? So George Blood, so Jannat, so if you can see here, if we have created that one, delete, we want to delete. So these are the data which is being successfully deleted from database, but they are not reflecting the changes, because if we test it, because this is a testing API, but the API is working fine. If you can see, there is a request method for delete and we are passing the ID for this user, and preview is nothing because user is deleted. So the backend is showing like we are hitting API successfully. So if we are integrating the real APIs, so we will be going to this user will be going to delete successfully. So the 204 method is for deleting the user successfully, right? So this is how the API integration works inside the Angular. So as we saw across the users, and if we click on any user details, so users are being loaded inside our detail. So but this is not a detail page, but this is only a rendered view or a separate component to show you guys how it will be going to work. So these are some basics for Angular HTTP backend services. So we will be going to take a deeper look in more details for the next videos. So thank you guys for watching.